Hey, welcome back. Wanted to first thank Theodora and David DRA. You and David DRI have been really nice sustainers, and thank you for that late contribution lately. And it looks like it's beginning to be regular, almost like Theodora's, which is just hugely appreciated. Theodora, thank you so much. Uh, all of you, thank you. Every time you do that, you can, you nobody's obviously going to get rich doing this, but except I'm hoping at your end you will. What was it? Somebody said, I like that very much as a life model, but he said, basically, I want to make sure that I leave the earth I leave behind more than I take with me. I was reminded of actually Hardy. Is his name Hardy? Oh, I think that's his name. The what was his first name? Anyway, the mathematician's apology, and he said there's nothing wrong with wanting to leave something of value behind. It is true that the only thing that lives on is it's not legacy and pictures and stuff like that. It's actually your neighbor. It's something there's the embodiment of something that goes on through other people because you've gifted them with knowledge. In particular, is one of those things I think. So I enjoyed that very much. I sense that you guys truly appreciate that as well. So let me get quickly into this. I got what could be taken to be a challenge or a strong criticism, and it might be that, or it could be just taken to be a nice, serious uh, critique in a good sense. But Hal says, I've looked at your personal work and can't help but be puzzled. You seem to understand how to paint the color of light, as is often said of Sorolla, but the work as a whole seems sterile. Reminds me of other classical realists in that your particular technique has become the entirety of your artistic expression. By the way, the unity between your expression and your technique is absolute. In other words, everybody who is certainly in my case, everybody who's glomming onto a technique isn't doing it because of what it is for somebody else. It's because of what it does for you and the things that you want to be able to express. So for me, as an example, the way I work is definitely a response to wanting all the color and the light, and being that guy who is responding to that and finding best methods. So that's a personal thing, that I get joy out of in nature. And so on the other side, though, if I manage to not uh, sort of complete the cycle by uh, um, projecting that sense of whatever it is. And by the way, Ang would say sometimes it's a sense of form. Somebody else would say, in other words, he would talk about expressing the form. So expressing the light, expressing these are all these are all expression tools, right? These are all, or other elements things you express. Um, but it's a very interesting thing because we've come to a different place. And at the very end, I'll give you a quote from Gammell, but we've come to a place where self-expression is this thing, is this shtick where you take nature and just do it's just a point of departure. So you can actually say something either very important or very, and I don't get the sense that this person is actually looking for that. I think that, and by the way, I think that critique is well taken in the sense that it's very easy to make to have your whole focus around as a craftsman making a nice picture and and not staying focused on the relevant point, which is that response to the beauty that you saw. But I just wanted this one to talk about. Today's is called, or it includes the two words impressionism and expression, or impression and expression. And I like that idea of expressing the impression. In other words, it impresses you, and you're trying to show people what you got joy. You're trying to express that element of nature that you got the joy from. If you're an impressionist, um, but yeah, so almost indubitably, by the way, it's one of those things that when you talk about the technique becoming the entirety of your artistic expression, I don't think that's a weak thing. I think that's a good thing. So I don't feel offended by that. I think when your technique is so fully involved, it's a very good thing. It's not so good when you can tell stories and that your technique is lacking, right? Or when you can express a feeling about something, but you're doing it with skills that are what shall we say, challengeable, because that demeans your message in the first place, right? It makes you less well heard. It's almost like having a person get up there pretending to be a comedian, like like people do with music these days. They get up there and whatever that's called, and sing on the bar stage, and they can't sing. Your feeling comes through, but it's really quite embarrassing, right? So we want to watch out for these two worlds. It's always going to be that way, and but the other side of this is though that your whole construct when you're young is to develop your craft. It's the model is get the craft going. Make sure you're a master of nature actually. I wish I had the Ang quote. I've seen that recently, but he talks about that. So everybody who's knowledgeable talks about that thing, the mastery of. In fact, he even talks about the mastery of the antique, of the mastery of past painting, enables you to understand nature better. And frankly, understanding nature better, which is this focus you want to have as a student, helps you to understand where art comes from and actually helps you to begin to find art. Stevenson talks about that in the book on Velasquez. As I sit here chatting, I'm wishing I'd pulled up some quotes for you. But let me just move to. Maybe I'll carry this conversation on just a little bit further. The point, the sterile point, is a point that's really kind of frustrating in one sense, and that is in the sense that that word sterile comes directly from the conversation about Sargent, who was painting these soldiers in the field, and some critics said about him, well, it looked like he wasn't there. He had no feeling for these people. And I don't find that to be true, actually, in that picture. So, somebody can have an opinion, and it doesn't matter necessarily to me, to the next guy. It doesn't necessarily mean the same thing. But I do want you to notice that Sargent, in a sort of a different response, somebody said to him admiringly, "You really got that woman's personality." And he said, "Well, I was just trying to get the shapes right," or something. I'm putting words in his mouth, but it was basically that. My job is to get their appearance on the page, and and so you can say that's dismissive, and of course, he's not simply doing that. He's always watching. But when you have an expression and you see somebody with an expression on their face, you're always watching what you're doing with the shape, with the marks, the locations of darks and lights and shape and angle and all those things. And whether they, among other things, are bringing about that expression that you favor, that thing that you're responding to in their personality. And you just keep watching it. But, and of course, at the end of the day, if you haven't accomplished that, you as a portrait painter aren't going to be particularly happy. So, by the way, there's another interesting question. I've noticed, by the way, is my favorite expression. So that was a very interesting point somebody made back there. My favorite phrase is, by the way, and I can't deny it much, can I? When I was young, I remember running into some sort of like a Confucian discussion. Right? It was just an Oriental story, but in which an artist was painting he was painting the emperor or something or other. I forget what it was, and it could have been 10 other things. But they would say about him that as the painting was getting further along, they started noticing that the artist himself, that he actually was seeming like becoming a phantom. And one day they came in and found the painting finished, and they couldn't find the artist anywhere. And that's a fascinating story because it represents something about expression, right? The expression is entirely other, right? If you're an impressionist now, I'm going to talk to you about the impressionist expression, right? But there is that thing about bringing forth. So it's not about you and some marks you're making and that sort of thing. It's about something else, right? So you're a vehicle for something, right? You're a vehicle for something, for beauty or something like that. And if I fail at that, then I take the challenge pretty seriously, right? Good story though. So Another point that's commonly missed is this question of what that thing is you're trying to do as an impressionist, and that is typically what you're trying to do is show somebody what you found to love. What's to love? What is it that you responded to with that yes? And so, to the extent anybody, including me, fails at that, I consider that just simply a serious failure. I don't. That's not an okay thing with me. So that's a perfectly legitimate critique if that's also what, if it's not coming through. And I do agree with Tolstoy, who said once that if the spectator or the reader isn't getting it, it's not his fault. Well, I agree with him only in part. In other words, there's two parts to this. One is you may not have said it well. And I remember Gammell said some things to me extremely well, and I said, "Did you mean something?" Or they said, "I meant exactly what I said." But you see, I plainly didn't get it. So this expression thing is a two-way street, isn't it? You may not be able to receive what's being offered to you. If you know nothing about rhythms in painting, you may say, "Well, I like that painting, but I have no, but it's missing this thing that I favor." But it doesn't, but since I don't know about this, I don't know how to value that, or I miss things in it. Not unusual. And I'll make one last point, and that is this discussion about craft. If it means like making a really good likeness, there's something really seriously challengeable in that thing. A good likeness, and by the way, I don't believe a good likeness is a sight-size likeness. I think a good likeness is an interpretive likeness. In other words, it's not a mechanical process in which you may as well have taken a photograph and traced it. It's not that. And if you think that's what this kind of painting is, you wouldn't be right. But I still want to offer you two quotes as I go into the pictures here. And one is Tarbell said one day, he said, "I just hope one day, someday, to make one truly like," right? So what was he saying? Truly like? I mean, my golly, what's he saying? The truth is everything, right? It almost sounds like that, doesn't it? Truly like. He didn't say, "I want to make one truly beautiful." He said, "I want to make one truly like." And obviously, if you're painting in a scene, if you were painting a still life, whatever, and it's beautiful, and you don't make it like, there's a failure in your achievement. Just of the beauty of the thing if you haven't made it like, right? So when you say likeness, you do mean a likeness of the beauty of it, or you wouldn't be wasting your time there, right? But and then there's that other one by DeCamp, and he said, you need to paint straight and true like a Christian. And it's all the same thing, where it sounds like you're just doing the right thing at the right time, and so this discussion, what you're talking with Ang is the discussion about beauty and truth and the interwoven factors of beauty and truth. But following this concept, though, he talks endlessly, Ang as well as DeCamp, they talk endlessly about true, about making it like. Not make it as like as you can the first time, and then make it more like. So let's just look at some pictures anyway. I don't really want to rant, but this is a fascinating point, and it can be expanded. So thank you for that, Hal. And so I want to ask you, when you look at these pictures, even the one down below, what's the expression? So this is the impressionist expression, right? Remember, people are sitting in front of him. He isn't organizing people to tell a story. He's sitting people down in front. Now, you could say there's a story. There's always a story. If you're a representational painter, there's a story, the mom and kid in a boat. But I'm betting he did it because it made such an amazing color combination. He probably saw it one day when he was about to go out and take his wife out for a boat ride or whatever, or anything, and he said, and he saw that, and he saw, but he isn't a storyteller. So you're not expecting his story to be the highly evocative thing. Some people respond to this picture on the upper right very negatively, and I just don't. I'm not that guy. I see things in it that if you want to pick on it from how he painted certain parts point of view, you might find some fault, but I don't need to. I think it expresses the beauty of that phenomena there on the spot. And it has beauty in its own, intrinsically in its own color and all those sorts of things. So he is expressing the beauty of that scene, and that's really what we do, right? And you can see down below, what is that for an expression? I mean, there's a person on the left, and let me get our favorite thing out again, our laser beam. And so you can see that the thing out on the left is, if I ever get it to show up now that I've made it, there it is. There's a person sitting on the left with maybe a parasol or something like that, probably reading a book or whatever. And my guess is that he found this to be part of a great sweeping diagonal system, right? So sort of had an interesting line to him. And he's putting this here. Who knows? He might have been planning to put figures around this as well, or had kids playing, or who knows what. But already you can see, though, that there's a fantastic amount of expression of the light, right? And remember, that's a huge piece of this, is expression of the light. I find it, because of the world and my own inclinations, my own temperament, that if a picture doesn't have light qualities, I don't have any inclination to paint it. And so I'm not that guy who just wants to do form, although I love form. And by the way, these guys do too. But it is that thing that rather is exciting. And I love the elements of composition, So is this one of those things you'd say this is expressing something? Rather is, right? It's a design, and design does that. It's a design of a rectangle, right? So there is an expression. That's the best word for it. But so here's Metcalf at the top left and right. Oh, both of these are his. Willard Metcalf. Willard Metcalf is one of the great impressionists that America produced. Period. Just period. he's staggering. It's really his best work is just like. Well, some young people would say to die for it these days, but the element of truth and beauty in combination is special. It's really special. He goes a step closer to realism than Monet does. Monet really does live in the joy of color light at his very best, and he does have some design stuff too, but not to say he doesn't at all. But so again, I want to ask what the expression is. Are these diminished pictures because of some lack of an expression? But he is, again, expressing the light. He's also designing a picture. So he's describing a hillside. I mean, what else are and so you go on with that expression. The relationships of these oranges to these reds to other notes in the grand ensemble of things. And so again, what's he expressing? You need to really be thoughtful about what that means. What is that thing that we're talking about expressing? I'm having a hard time making this stop. There it is. Bunker up in the upper left was expressing something, right? He's expressing the light. He's describing the light. And he's getting the quality of light. So expressing. So in the same exact sense that Ang would say, express the form. It means bring all the qualities, really get it, right? And bring it to the viewer. And in both cases, the one down below is Vanna, and both of these guys are painting impressionistically, seen on the spot. Now, you could say this is an expression that if you want to go story-wise, if someone picking flowers or bunches of people, maybe it's like kids playing and someone picking flowers. Was that a tulip field or something? Poppy field? What is that? Anyway. So, but in either case, what is the expression? I just keep asking because you really want to think about what expression means. What in the heck is expression? So, what is being expressed? So I'm going to tell you that a dominant thing that's being expressed by the impressionist in a sunny day is the quality of the light, the color relations, and to whatever extent there's a composition, that's a form of expression, right? Design of a rectangle. In fact, there's maybe nothing more personal than, in terms of when you get to the design, nothing more personal in a person's expression than how he designs a rectangle. Again, now simply indoors to camp. You've seen both of these before. What's not to love, right? And so what are they? Now, these aren't, so you look at a sergeant, for example, and you might find that sort of dramatic, look at me kind of thing, that come hither pose and all that sort of stuff that he would do continually with younger women when he's doing his portraits. And that the one on the right seems to have a little bit of that feeling. So if you're saying that he's expressing, that the model is expressing an attitude or something like that, well, to me, it rather feels like a model posing. But if you want to say that, and it's an imaginative picture and make this into a story thing, in which the model is just turning to say hello to somebody or is taking a pose one after the other for the painter, trying to help him find a pose. I guess you might be expressing that story-wise. There's definitely an expression of a music moment, right? Someone's playing the guitar. That's an expression, right? And it's an expression of the glory of the light. It's an expression of all kinds of marvelous stuff. Movement of light across a wall. What else does it express? It expresses textures in relation to each other. So, and by the way, one of the reasons I'm talking about this is I want, if you pick this up, Hal. Wonder how I lost that image again, Whitaker. We're going to sort this one out. I'm trying to remember which one of the, that was one of the haystacks, one of the Monet haystacks on the upper left. Sorry, it's disappeared on you. But we'll live without it. Monet stands well. But I want you to think this through, and if you have a different word, a different thing that you mean by expression, tell me what it is, or tell us what it is in your further comments. But here again, what is this the expression of, right? And easily you'd say it's the expression of light. Now you want to say it's a mood on a day. I mean, yeah, on a given day you might get that in the summertime, for example. There's a sense of well-being maybe, or three other things like that. This can give you a sense of grandeur, nearly, a sense of there's a big breadth to this thing that makes you feel like you're in a large space. Now that gives you a certain feeling, different from the feelings of these. So if that's what he's trying to express, that would be perfectly adequate. The word feeling is big. But you'll see that all Impressionist work actually tends toward having a feeling, right? There's a response of the painter to the look of nature, and he is achieving that feeling. And here again, if I've failed to do that, that's my failure, right? I wanted to throw this in. I did find one quote, and I didn't have time to go digging for more, but the Florentine painters of the 15th century are the only guides, says Degas, if you are thoroughly imbued with them, and if you ceaselessly perfect your means of expression by the study of nature, you're bound to achieve something. So here we are with a means of expression. How do you do it? You ceaselessly perfect your means of expression by the study of nature. Wow. Perfect your means of expression by the study of nature. Now, you can pick on me as an older guy, but some of these other guys who you mentioned are, well, one of them is probably my age, the other one's probably quite a bit younger than me. But anytime you're talking about painters who are in developmental stages, and by the way, we're all in developmental stages, so think of it that way too. The adherence to the good drawing and all that sort of stuff is part of this. I say the good drawing, but I mean really studying nature and getting out of it what it's got, really becoming a truth carrier, a truth bearer, is continuously before us. And I have simply found that as you begin to find the truth of the color relationships, you begin to find the music. And there's a whole bunches of wonderful quotes in that direction that say that precisely, that study nature, study nature, study nature, and the poetry will come. Stevenson says it, talking about Velázquez and other people as well. So it's about, do your job, be good at what you do. When you're seeing something in front of you, paint it truthfully. And search, and I'm talking about in the course of your studies, and you're going to start finding the source of music, the source of the poetry, and the poetry is a form of expression, right? So if you miss my poetry, that might be a different thing, right? That wouldn't be, and it might be that it isn't resounding enough in some way. That's fair enough. Sometimes it's something in yourself. I remember certain poets, including Robert Frost, at first didn't appeal to me, and over time they appealed to me a great deal more. And so what is that, right? Were they failing, or was I failing to listen? So here's Benson. Now you can see the one on the right creates a drama. A woman's in this sort of small side light, and the gold and all the rest. But what is that expressive of, right? You can tell it's a posed model, so it's not expressing any story in particular. And at least to me, it's not. In fact, that's true of all these. They all have an element of a story. But the expression here is more based on the design. It's the expression of color relations and the interweaving of pattern and things like that. So these are the, he's finding elements and he's bringing them to you and saying, look, and just, I mean, by the way, just in this reproduction, which may not at all be true, that sense of kind of golds and golds and golds and green and gold and then just that marvelous amount of red in just the right place, to the extent this painting photograph is true, is definitely in that class of expression with color, expression with light and value relationships, expression with size distributions. What is that expressing? It's the poetry of those things. So, does he have any feeling for them? Obviously, he does. Yeah, and that's a big deal, or it wouldn't come through. And that's true of both the other ones too. But you can see they're primarily both these other ones, and all of these actually are, as you could say, mere descriptions of the magic of the light in the world in front of you. It's a classic thing, especially in New England on a sunny day. That's if you want to call it the mystery of light, is that a thing that's being expressed? So what do you mean by expression is quite a big deal. It's quite a big deal, especially when you, again, keep remembering Tarbell saying, I just want to paint one like someday, just one that's truly like, right? That's getting all the quality of the beauty of that world in front of you, which the only way you can really access it is by, if it's truly, truly beautiful, it's not to mess with it and do stuff to it and distort it and all that sort of thing. See, the difference between expression and self-expression are pretty huge. And I don't mean to say that when you're actually being the vehicle for beauty, that isn't self-expression. You are the vehicle, it's coming through you. But your job is actually to be an honorable vehicle. In other words, to bring the truth, not to distort it and make interesting things out of it and do magic of your own purveying, your own invention. There's never been that. Painters don't talk that way historically. So it depends on what people mean by those. But when they talk that way. So there we go. I lost another one. This is really frustrating. We have to work that out, aren't we, Mr. Producer? It's my fault, I'm sure. But this was a painting here by John Peterson that you've seen before. A really excellent little thing. These two are by students of Boston School students. And again, what are they expressing, right? So what is expression, right? These guys paint straight and true, and if you think that it should be distorted to become expressive, you'd be not in my world. I actually don't get any joy out of goofy pictures. They don't last very long, by the way, and I don't think you really mean that in your statement either. But the idea of distorting nature to get some what should we say, modern art sort of mindset, personal statement thing. It's one thing to set up something in the light that does something fascinating and then bring it, but it's another story to take nature and distort it. I don't know that I don't consider El Greco to be a bad painter by any means, but I have a hard time with El Greco being as high rated as a lot of people make him, except in his very best work. I mean, he's got such a body of work that's so curious, and that's a similar problem with Van Gogh and some others who you'll probably hate me for not loving. Cézanne. Not that there aren't things to like about these people, but that thing takes over, and you're not at that point the vehicle for the beauty in front of you as much as you become the subject, and that's one of the dangers of that version of self-expression. Do you really want to become the subject? My golly, this is really not happy. So the bottom left one, this is the one I was just talking about, and so who knows what I did with that. I hope you can bear with me because I've got to get this video to you, but I'm going to sort this out with my producer. It's my fault, but we should be able to sort it out together. I've never had pictures drop out on me like I have in the last couple times. Anyway, this is a Robert Douglas Hunter. Again, just a picture, it's just a scene in front of him. And you see that he's finding the intrigue in certain of these interrelationships, in the color relationships this way, the shapy relationships another way, the bounce of the happy round yellows or whatever. He's got all sorts of intriguing visual play in here. So what's he expressing? And I just keep asking you that. What's he expressing? And by the way, what do you want to express besides this? I mean, this is that thing that I'm trying to say to you. This is the point of expression, is to bring the magic of the moment. If you're an impressionist, to bring it though. But if you failed to bring it, that's a big deal. And if I'm being accused of that, I won't defend myself. And so here's Hunter. There's Sargent. And I want to ask you again, what's he expressing? Now, you could say this is distorted, but this is expression of light. This is a picture that has elements of very curious interrelationships of odd visual elements. But but overall, you can see that what it's doing is actually talking about the light. This one is too. It does have some interesting trees and some animals and so on. But what's it expressing? You know, the hillside with a perhaps a shepherd in it or whatever that is, a goat herd. Is what is it expressing? So I just ask you, you know, keep this in mind. I mean, what's anybody expressing? What do impressionists express? And this is uh, Twatman. And again, I'm asking you that. Is he self-expressing? No, he's painting what he sees in front of him. Now, you could say, as a tonalist, he's actually maybe taking some liberties. Uh, if that's what you mean, I still want to ask you, what is he expressing? So you could say, well, he's expressing. What's it? Is it something about nature that he's expressing, or are we here seeing a person? Or by the way, is it? But it's still going to be a poetic response, much like all poetry is, right? Um, Even if it is. So that element of nature that's sitting in front of you is always going to be the key thing, right? And so if you've evolved something out of that, that's understandable. And so then there's Vinton, and on the bottom right, uh, Gertrude Fisk, I'm sorry. Uh, so again, I just want to ask you what you mean by expression. I want to ask all of us what we mean by expression. What do these things express? And so I would suggest to you that each of these things that I've shown you gives you a sensation of a yes sensation. You're expressing the yes of the moment. You're expressing a positive reaffirmation. If you want to call it praise of your creator, or praise of you know, I love all things dappled, or some of these poets from way back when, um, uh, you know, um, the praise poems. But that really, if you ask me, that really is what it is. Except that painters, the job also in terms of the truth of the beauty in front of you is one thing, and then the intrigue of the world. So a lot of the jig jag stick building stuff here, the entertaining value of that, right? That's definitely entertaining, no question about it. What's it expressing? I mean, I just want to ask you, what's it expressing? Or is it just sterile response? You know, so it's the beauty of truth, presumably, and there you're tying yourself, of course, to the great Ang. Here's two Chardins on the left, and this one on the right is mine. I've showed you this recently before. I dragged it out of some closet, I'd forgotten it existed. I never really much respected it, and I've never really much promoted it or tried to even sell it. But it's a picture that this mine is a picture that if any picture I've done has rather expression, it's like these two guys are temple guards or something, and they're showing some feistiness. I had this opportunity to paint a still life with two of these things. They're about 3 or 4 feet high, 3 feet plus high, and and in the background is a screen that Paxton had used in a painting. So you're seeing me set up something that rather tickled me, and I will say, my whole job after that was simply, once I set it up to actually sort of tell a story, my job was simply to just get the entertainment value out of the color distributions, the shape, and all that sort of stuff, and try to design something in a fascinating way. So what's the expression? If you want to say it's some feistiness, they're red hot ants in the middle of a golden field. I don't know. And the same thing is true though of this guy. What's he expressing now? Again, if you want to say a feeling, I would say feeling is a fair thing, right? Because your response to something, that's the filter of an emotion. That is your feeling. So if mine are unfeeling, then that truly is a bad thing. But think it through. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. So these are three Soroyas, and again, I'm showing you scenes that really are, he's not expressing anything with figures, he's just painting spots. The one on the bottom right is just a study of a thing, which is the kind of stuff he would do, and this is when he's working impressionist, just painting what he sees. He's not moving things around to get a storytelling thing or anything like that. This is all painting what he sees in the sense of being a true impressionist. I say that true impressionist in the sense that I've already said that when you're talking about Soroy, you're talking about an imaginative impressionist. So it's not really, he's not painting a scene. He's putting people and things into this place that is truly, really resoundingly true impressionistically. And then he throws in figures. So he's not painting it in a simple sense of an impression. He's painting it and making an impression. He's painting the impression of the ground, the landscape. Like he could have put a fisherman in this one here. And to the extent they got the fisherman to actually look like he belongs in that thing, you'd say it feels uh, like the unity of that day, which is a pretty serious skill, but still a slightly different kind of work. Anyway, what's the feeling? How you're responding to these things? So is that simply a question of feeling something related to the kind of landscape it is, the rocky landscape, the ocean, the rocks, or are you getting a feeling from the color, whatever? So there you are. I mean, that's the tendency of the impressionist. Um, so these are the other Soroyas, by the way. I'm just simply showing you that he's doing it again in other places. This is the one where I'm talking about how he would. This looks to be a scene where these figures might have been just thrown in the day, but other ones look like they're so well organized and posed and all that sort of thing. Uh, and there's so many of them that it wouldn't have been even plausible for him to have posed all those people on the same day. So it's an imaginative impression. But these things here really do resemble all the other impressionist stuff you see in the sense that it looks like he's trying to get the relationships of the color and to bring the light. So is he expressing? Yeah, he's expressing his response to it. Yeah, which is what the impressionist does. So I'll leave you with, I think this is the last one. I'll leave you. Oh, it's not. I'm going to do Degas for a second. I'm going to leave you. I'm not going to leave you with this one. Velasquez is always that. We're talking about this guy who's painting pictures that you can say the scene here. He's got people spinning, and it's really weird. Like, what are they spinning for? They're in the middle of what looks like a theater activity in the background. I mean, the whole thing sort of has a implausible story, but who cares? So what is he doing? He's actually just describing. He's actually creating a scene, and that has unity, visual unity. And so, in the same sense as you would paint anything impressionistically, even though he undoubtedly has pieced this together, much like, at least in part, much like Sorolla. So, I'm going to show you again the other. Am I going to go past that one? I've got to be careful here. It's probably going to jump too. It did jump too. So I'm just going to show you more of those kinds of these on the two left. On the left, I've shown you the impressionist doing imaginative work, painting scenes, and then he's got separate paintings of different aspects of this thing, and he puts them together into one unified whole. And so Sargent does the same thing with El Jalejo, and Degas arguably does the same thing. But Degas has this one other thing going on. So when you talk about it as an impressionist, these guys look like they're really just trying to make the plausible scene. There's a plausibility in his too, but he actually is a colorist, and so he's actually got it. He's reached this other level of color that's really intriguing, which is characteristic of Degas. So it has the sort of a feeling of. So the drawings are all done from life, presumably, and the horses are all pieced together like he does, and everything just pieced together until he has a fascinating design. And so this goes in a way different direction. And so this begins to be design, expression through design. And by the way, these are perfectly great designs. This is a particularly fascinating whirlwind sort of design, and so on. So I don't know that I have more to say about these, but I want to just ask if you can, anybody watching, what is that thing that you believe the artist is expressing, or even trying to express? Because that's actually quite fair. What is he trying to express? What is that sensation? If you're an impressionist, what is that sensation? What is it that you have received that you're trying to actually tell people, show people? When I saw this, I thought that, I felt this, and can I make you feel the same way? But that is sort of the mindset of the feeling of an impressionist. So that's one of those things. I don't want to make more of it than that. And there can always be more to it, which is what you're seeing here when you get to the level of talking about imaginative work. Impressionistic, which means it looks like the light and color of Monet. So, all right. So I think I'll let it go at that. And thank you, Hal, for your question. And thank you again, David and Theodora. And we'll see you in the next one. Please do. I'm actually asked to say thank you for sharing, for commenting, for subscribing, and for your donations. And keep it coming. It's much appreciated. And I really do like those questions. One of you from, I want to say, where were you from? Sorry, Yugoslavia? Anyway, somebody sent me a very interesting one, but I couldn't really follow it adequately. So whoever made those comments, I want to say what was your name? Darko. Is it Darko? I think maybe Darko. If you could rethink that or phrase those questions, different points, uh, or pull them all together into one if they are one, I would really like to talk about some of that stuff. And I will talk about some, but I would like to have clarity about all of it so I can really deal with that one. Okay, see you the next one and have a great painting week. Hey, by the way, let me tell you again, don't forget to come to, if you're inclined to join us for our live stream, which is on the 15th. That's just 10 days away roughly. Saturday, 5:30. Um, Look forward to having the opportunity to respond to your in-person conversation. All right, should be a lot of fun. See you next time.